In the beginning of the Book of Mormon, we read about Nephi and his family and his incredible journey into the wilderness with his family and courageous journey. So we all know that they left Jerusalem. They packed up what they needed and they went into the wilderness. And then shortly after that, it seems like shortly after when you're like just turning the pages, but I'm sure for them it felt like not so short. Long days traveling into the wilderness. We read about how Lehi comes to Nephi and he says that the Lord has commanded that Nephi and his brothers go back to Jerusalem to go get the brass plates. And then of course comes the famous line from Nephi saying, I will go and do the things the Lord asks. I've known this story since I was a little girl, but my husband and I were reading this together before we went to bed the other night. And I thought, what the heck? Like, what would I say if that happened to me? In my head, I'm kind of like, God, Heavenly Father commanded us to leave Jerusalem. And being God, you didn't think to tell us to grab the brass plates before we left? What the heck? Like, I think that could be the mindset that some of us have. For me, that's the mindset that I think I could easily see myself saying, like, why would you not do this? And then of course we read that Nephi said he would go and that Laman and Lemuel murmured and they went back to Jerusalem to get the plates. And as I kept reading it, I had read this account many times, but this time it stood out differently to me. I was so impressed by their journey back to Jerusalem and the things that happened because they went back. It seems like such a short account here. I'm in 1 Nephi chapter 3. But when you look at those things that happened to them, Nephi had faith. And when he went back finally after a couple attempts and went back and saw Laman laying there, and the commandment that was given, and he said, I can't. He had the opportunity again to feel the Spirit testify to him. He got to hear the words of the Spirit. And that probably wouldn't have happened if they would have just taken the plates and gone. Another amazing thing that happened, even though tragedy struck right before that, was an angel appeared to them. And an angel told them what would happen if they went back and had faith in the Lord and to try again. And then it affected other people. Zoram went back with them. And then later on, we'd read about the Zoramites. So there were so many things that happened because they went back to Jerusalem that I would assume probably wouldn't have happened if they grabbed the plates in the beginning and left for the wilderness. I thought about this in my life, where there have been many times in my life where it seems like everything's going well. I have checked everything off, and I've made sure I was as responsible as I could be, if you will. And then sometimes we get what we feel like is Heavenly Father asking us to go back to our Jerusalem. Try to think of that in today's terms. It's happened to me before. I'm very confident it'll happen to me again, and that it'll happen to all of us. Is I can recall times in my life where I've offered prayers that everything will go perfect the way I want it to be. And I feel like I've checked all the boxes. I pray along the way, and something happens that makes me feel like I'm being asked to go back to Jerusalem. And it can seem to Jerusalem, it can make it seem like, how did you not tell me about this before? Why did I keep praying about this? How can this be right? But when I read that passage, it rung true that some of the things that happened to Nephi and his brothers maybe would not have happened if they didn't go back and do what Heavenly Father asked them to do. I think that's true in our lives. I promise that's true in our lives. I have seen where I'm in that moment where I'm asked to go back to Jerusalem, if you will, where I'm asked to do something. And I wonder, and I do. We can all have the attitude that Nephi has. I've said it many times in my own language today that I will do what Heavenly Father asks me to do. And things happen that could not have happened if I didn't take my journey back to Jerusalem, if I didn't do it. And my testimony is strengthened and my relationships are strengthened and things work out so much better, I think, than they could have if everything I asked for worked out perfectly, or if he had told me to do what he was asking me to do before. I hope and pray that we can have the strength that Nephi had, that when we're asked to do the things that seem out of order, or things that seem really hard or opposite of what we've been praying for, that we'll be able to keep the end perspective in mind. One of the great blessings of the gospel that I have seen, especially recently in my life, that it is real and that happens, is no matter where we are, no matter what is happening, we can have joy in every single part of the journey. Of course, there's joy when things are going right, but there's also, my testimony is that there's joy when things are hurting our hearts. There's joy in healing, and there's joy from all the family members and friends all around. And if nothing more, there is joy in knowing that Heavenly Father loves us and will help us through everything. I have said before that if we haven't already been asked to go back, that we will. It'll happen again. So I hope we can all have the faith of Nephi and the example of the scriptures when we're asked to go back to Jerusalem.